A bombshell report just dropped that has Dodgers fans doing a complete double take. Tyler Glasnow, the guy who was absolutely crucial to their championship run, is reportedly being discussed in trade scenarios. And this isn't coming from some random blogger. This is an ESPN writer citing an MLB executive who thinks the Dodgers might actually move him. Let's break down what's happening here, why it makes absolutely no sense on the surface, and why there might be more to this story than meets the eye. Jesse Rogers from ESPN dropped this report, and it caught everyone off guard. An anonymous MLB executive told ESPN that Tyler Glasnow could be on the market. Here's the exact quote. Feels like the Dodgers can go to Ohtani, Yamamoto, Blake Snell, Sasaki, and Emmett Sheehan and others, and use Glasnow on the market to cover up the holes. So the theory is that the Dodgers have so much pitching depth they could afford to trade Glasnow to address needs elsewhere on the roster. Let's be real clear about something right off the bat. This would be an absolutely massive risk with potentially minimal reward. Glasnow was instrumental to the Dodgers' championship run last season. Yeah, he got his first career save in the postseason, which shows you how versatile and valuable he is. This is a guy who can dominate as a starter, but also slide into high leverage relief when needed. That kind of flexibility is gold in October, and we just watched the Dodgers win a World Series partly because they had that depth. So why would anyone even suggest trading him? The logic goes like this. Glasnow is making serious money over the next 2 years, $65 million over 2 seasons, about $32.5 million per year, with a club option in 2028. Some people think the Dodgers might want to shed that salary to create flexibility elsewhere. But here's the thing. We're talking about the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is not a team that's worried about paying players. They just won a championship. They're trying to build a dynasty. The idea that they'd trade Glasnow purely for payroll reasons doesn't pass the smell test. Look at his numbers. Over the past 3 seasons, he's had an ERA under 3.5. Last year specifically, he posted a 3.19 ERA across 18 starts. His StatCast page is a sea of red, everything in the 75th percentile or higher. This is an elite pitcher in his prime. He's 31 years old, which for a pitcher is still relatively young, especially with how well he takes care of himself and how his stuff is held up. You don't just trade a guy like that unless you're getting something absolutely extraordinary in return. But here's where it gets interesting. Brandon Gomes, the Dodgers GM, recently said they're not certain if they'll stick with a 6-man rotation. He said it's on the table, but depends how things shake out. That's a pretty significant statement because it suggests there's some internal discussion about how to structure the rotation moving forward, with Shohei Ohtani expected to return to pitching on a normal schedule next year, and with the possibility that Roki Sasaki stays in the rotation rather than moving to the bullpen. Suddenly you're looking at a potential logjam. Think about it. You've got Yoshinobu Yamamoto as your ace. You've got Blake Snell, who was dominant down the stretch. You've got Glasnow. You've got Ohtani coming back. You've got Sasaki. You've got Emmett Sheehan waiting in the wings. That's 6 legitimate starters, and potentially 7 if you count other organizational depth. Running a 6-man rotation all season is tough. Guys get extra rest, which sounds good in theory, but pitchers also get cold. They lose their rhythm. The Dodgers know this. They've experimented with it before, and it's not always ideal. So maybe, just maybe, there's a scenario where the Dodgers look at their roster construction and think trading Glasnow could make sense if they get the right return. What would that look like? You'd need an impact bat, maybe a second baseman who can provide offense and defense, maybe an elite closer who gives you shutdown capability in the 9th inning, maybe an outfielder who fills a need in left field. The point is, it would have to be a significant upgrade at a position of need, not just a salary dump. But even then, I'm skeptical this happens. The Dodgers just won a World Series with this exact core. They know what works. They know how valuable it is to have multiple guys who can dominate as starters, but also slide into relief roles in big games. We saw Yamamoto throw in Game 7 of the World Series. We saw Sasaki come out of the bullpen in high-leverage spots. We saw Glasnow get that save. That versatility is a huge part of what makes this team special, and you don't give that up lightly. There's also the injury factor to consider. Yes, Glasnow has dealt with injuries throughout his career. He hasn't always pitched full seasons. but last year he was healthy and effective, and the Dodgers medical staff clearly believes they can keep him on the field. If they were worried about his durability, they wouldn't have given him that contract extension. They made that commitment because they believe in him long term. And let's talk about what trading him would signal to the rest of the team and the fan base. You just won a championship. You're trying to build a dynasty and go for a three-peat before any potential salary cap situation comes into play. Trading away one of your best pitchers sends a message that you're not fully committed to running it back. That's not the Dodgers' way right now. They're in win-now mode. They're adding pieces, not subtracting them. The one scenario where this might make sense is if another team completely blows them away with an offer, like if the Yankees call and offer Juan Soto, which isn't happening, but just as an example of the caliber of return it would take, then maybe you have a conversation. But barring some absolutely insane overpay, why would the Dodgers weaken their pitching staff when pitching wins championships? Brandon Gomez also mentioned that Ohtani being back on a full pitching schedule complicates things. And yeah, it does. But that's a good problem to have. Having too many good pitchers is infinitely better than not having enough. The Dodgers can figure out how to manage innings and keep guys fresh. They've proven they're one of the best organizations in baseball at player development and workload management. They'll find a way to keep everyone effective. Emmett Sheehan jumping back into the rotation mix is another factor. He showed real promise before his injury. If he's healthy and effective in spring training, suddenly you're looking at even more depth. But again, depth is good. Injuries happen. Guys struggle. Having 7 or 8 pitchers who can legitimately contribute at a high level means you're never scrambling. That's how you win multiple championships. So where does this report actually come from? Why is an MLB executive even floating this idea? A few possibilities. 1, it's a trial balloon from the Dodgers themselves to gauge interest. 2, it's other teams wishfully thinking the Dodgers might move him and planning stories. 3, it's legitimate intel about internal discussions that may or may not lead anywhere. Without knowing the source, it's hard to say. But here's what I keep coming back to. The Dodgers are not in a position where they need to trade Glasnow. They're not cash-strapped. They're not rebuilding. They're not desperate to fill holes. They have the payroll flexibility to add pieces without subtracting. And they can sign a second baseman in free agency. They can trade for an outfielder using prospects. They don't need to gut their championship-winning core to address other needs. And Glasnow is such a huge part of that core. He's not just a really good pitcher. He's a guy who changes how you can deploy your entire staff. Knowing you can start him every 5th day, but also bring him out of the bullpen if needed in the playoffs is incredibly valuable. That optionality is rare and shouldn't be given up unless you're getting something equally rare back. The other thing to consider is what message this would send to Glasnow himself and to other potential free agents. The Dodgers pride themselves on treating players well and building long-term relationships. Trading a guy right after winning a championship when he was a key contributor could create some negative optics. Players talk, agents talk. You don't want to develop a reputation as a team that moves guys at the first opportunity. So my take, this is probably much ado about nothing. Yes, an executive mentioned Glasnow's name. Yes, there are theoretical scenarios where a trade could make sense. But practically speaking, the Dodgers have no incentive to move him unless they get absolutely blown away by an offer. And even then, you'd have to question whether weakening your pitching staff to strengthen another area is really the smart play when you're trying to win multiple championships. The safe bet is Glasnow stays put. He anchors the rotation alongside Yamamoto and Snell. Ohtani comes back and slots in. Sasaki continues developing. Sheehan provides depth. The Dodgers figure out whether they go with a 5-man or 6-man rotation based on health and performance, and they address their other needs through free agency and trades that don't involve gutting their pitching staff. But this is definitely a story worth monitoring. If we start hearing more smoke around Glasnow's name, if more reporters start mentioning it, then maybe there's something real here. For now, though, it feels like speculation based on the Dodgers having an embarrassment of riches in their rotation. And having too much of a good thing is a problem every championship team would love to have.